You meet him at a gas station outside Guadalajara when you're 19. He's filling up a black Suburban with tinted windows so dark they could hide a small army, which, as it turns out, they frequently do. You're there because your Honda Civic sounds like it's coughing up its own transmission, and you need air for a tire that's been slowly dying for 3 weeks. He offers to help. You notice his hands first. Clean, manicured, expensive watch. The kind of hands that don't belong to someone pumping their own gas in the middle of nowhere. He gets your tire sorted in under 5 minutes while making you laugh about absolutely nothing important. Before you leave, he asks for your number. You give it to him because he has kind eyes and a smile that makes you forget you're standing in 95-degree heat next to a gas pump that smells like burnt rubber and bad decisions. The first 3 months feel like a telenovela written by someone who actually believes in happy endings. Dinners at restaurants where the staff knows his name and brings champagne you didn't order. Weekend trips to beach houses that belong to friends he never fully explains. He shows up at your apartment with flowers, with takeout, with that same smile that somehow gets more effective every time you see it. He asks about your day like the answer actually matters. He remembers your mother's birthday before you do. He pays off your Honda without asking, just hands you the title one morning over coffee like it's the most casual thing in the world. You think you found someone who sees you as more than another face in a city of 9 million people. Your mother meets him once and goes quiet in a way that mothers do when they know something their daughters don't want to hear. She doesn't say he's dangerous. She says he's too generous. Same thing, different words. You ignore her because you're 19 and in love and convinced that skepticism is just what happens to people who've stopped believing good things can happen to them. He proposes on a rooftop in Mexico City, 6 months after the gas station. No big production, just the two of you and a view that stretches past the smog into something that almost looks like clarity. The ring is platinum with a diamond you don't ask the price of because asking prices in this relationship stop making sense around month 2. You say yes before he finishes the question. You call your mother from the car. She cries. You assume it's happiness. Years later, you'll realize some tears don't have categories. The wedding happens fast. His family pays for everything. And everything means a venue that holds 400 people, a dress that requires its own security team, and a band flown in from Sinaloa that plays until 3 in the morning. Your side of the church is smaller. His side looks like a corporate merger between a Fortune 500 company and a military deployment. Men in suits that fit too well. Women in dresses that cost more than your childhood home. Everyone's polite, generous, and careful in a way that makes you feel like you're the only person in the room who doesn't know the rules of the game being played. You move into a house that doesn't show up on any map. Gated, guarded, surrounded by 10 acres of land that feels less like property and more like a buffer zone between your life and everyone else's. The kitchen has marble counters. The bedroom has a view of mountains you can't name. There's a pool, a garden, an office he keeps locked, and a garage that holds 6 vehicles you'll never be allowed to drive yourself. You decorate, you cook. You learn how to be alone in a house full of people whose job is to make sure you're never actually alone. He's gone more than he's home. Business trips that last a week and come with explanations that sound reasonable until you say them out loud to yourself at 2 in the morning. You don't ask where he goes because asking feels like admitting you don't already know, and not knowing feels safer than confirming what you're starting to suspect. The money appears in accounts you didn't open. The gifts arrive from stores you've never been to. The staff changes without warning. People vanish from your life and nobody mentions them again, like they were never there to begin with. You learn that in this world, curiosity isn't a virtue. It's a liability. Your first child arrives 14 months into the marriage. A son. He has your husband's eyes and your nose and a future that's already being written by people who've never asked what you want for him. The house fills with more guards, more cameras, more rules about where you can go and who you can see, and what you're allowed to say on the phone when your mother calls to ask how you're doing. You tell her you're fine because fine is the only acceptable answer. She doesn't believe you. You don't blame her. Your daughter comes 2 years later. She's quieter than your son, watches everything, absorbs the tension in the house like a sponge soaking up water it'll never be able to wring out. You read to her at night in a nursery that costs more than most people's annual salary. You sing songs your mother sang to you. You try to build a childhood for her that feels normal inside a house where nothing is. Your husband loves them. That part's real. He holds them with a gentleness that doesn't match the rumors you've started hearing on the news. The whispers from staff who forget you're in the room. The looks from women at the private school who know exactly who you are and what that means. He plays with them on the floor. He takes them to the pool. He teaches your son to ride a bike in circles around a driveway that's bigger than the park you grew up playing in. And when he leaves for another business trip, he kisses all three of you like he might not come back. That's the part that keeps you awake, not the fear that he will come back. The fear that one day he won't. You adapt. That's what people do when the alternative is breaking. You build routines inside the restrictions. School drop-offs in armored SUVs that your son thinks are normal because he's never known anything else. Playdates that require background checks on the other parents. Birthday parties at the house because taking your children anywhere public means logistics that feel more like military operations than childhood. You become fluent in a language nobody teaches you. The language of knowing when to leave a room, when to pretend you didn't hear something, when to smile at a man whose name you've seen in a federal indictment. You get good at it. Too good. And that's when you realize the trap isn't the house or the guards or the money. The trap is how normal it all starts to feel. Your son turns 7. He asks why his father has so many phones. You tell him it's for work. He asks why the gardener carries a gun. You tell him it's for animals. He looks at you with those eyes that are starting to see through things, and you watch the trust flicker. Not gone yet, but dimming. You're teaching your children to accept lies as love. That's the inheritance you're building, brick by brick. Every time you smile and say, everything's fine. The first time you see the violence up close, it's not dramatic. No gunfight, no screaming. Just a man who was at your dinner table on Thursday who isn't anywhere by Sunday. You ask about him once. Your husband looks at you with an expression you've never seen before. Not angry, just empty. Like he's already forgotten the question. You don't ask again. The man's wife calls you 3 weeks later. She's crying. She needs money for her children. You send it anonymously through a lawyer because that's what the other wives do. There's a network of women like you, scattered across the country, connected by silence and shared understanding. You've never met most of them. You'll never speak openly to any of them. But you know they exist because sometimes an envelope shows up at your door with cash and no return address. And you know it's from another wife whose husband made the same choice yours did about someone who asked the wrong question. 8 years in, the walls start closing differently. Your daughter is 6 now. She draws pictures at school of houses with tall fences. The teacher calls you in for a conference. She's concerned. The pictures are always empty. No people, just buildings and barriers. You look at the drawings spread across the teacher's desk and see your life through your daughter's eyes. Structures without inhabitants. Safety without connection. You take the drawings home. You don't show your husband. He's different now, too. Harder in ways that don't show on his face but live in the space between his words. He comes home after weeks away and doesn't talk about where he's been. He plays with the children like he's memorizing them. He holds you at night like he's already saying goodbye. You start finding things. A second passport in a name that isn't his. Cash in the lining of a jacket. A phone that rings once and stops, then rings again in a pattern that feels like code. You don't touch any of it. Touching means knowing, and knowing means choosing. And you gave up choosing the day you signed the marriage certificate. The dinner happens on a Tuesday. Business associates, their wives, your husband at the head of the table, talking about shipping routes and distribution networks, without ever saying what's being shipped or distributed. You serve food you didn't cook. Smile at jokes you don't find funny. And excuse yourself early because one of the wives is looking at you with an expression you recognize. Pity mixed with warning. The next morning, 3 of those men are dead. You read about it on your phone while your children eat breakfast. Cartel violence, the news says. Targeted killings. Your husband is on a business trip. He calls that afternoon from a number you don't recognize. His voice is calm. He asks about the children. He tells you he loves you. He doesn't mention the bodies. You don't either. That night, you stand in your daughter's doorway and watch her sleep. She's clutching a stuffed animal your husband won for her at a fair 2 years ago, back when he could still take the family somewhere public without 3 security vehicles and an escape plan. You think about the teacher's concern, the empty houses in the drawings, the fences with no gates. Your daughter isn't drawing what she sees. She's drawing what she feels. Contained, protected, and completely alone. You walk to your son's room. He's awake, staring at his ceiling. He's 9 now, old enough to have heard things at school, smart enough to have started putting pieces together. He doesn't look at you when you sit on his bed. He asks a question you've been dreading for years. Is Dad a bad man? You open your mouth. Every answer you've prepared dissolves. Because the truth is, you don't know anymore. The boy from the auto shop is gone. The man who dances with you in the kitchen is real. The man whose name appears in federal investigations is also real. They're all the same person, and you married him, and you've spent a decade trying to love one version while pretending the others don't exist. You tell your son what your mother probably wanted to tell you years ago but couldn't. Your father loves you. That's what matters. Your son turns his head, looks at you with eyes that already know you're lying. Does it? He asks. You don't have an answer. You kiss his forehead and leave before he can see you cry. The house is quiet. The guards are outside. Your husband is somewhere you'll never be allowed to know about. Your children are learning that love and truth are separate things. And you're standing in a hallway that cost more than most people's homes, realizing that every choice you made to protect your family has taught them the wrong lesson about what protection actually means. You sit on the edge of your bed at 3 in the morning, scrolling through photos on a phone that's probably monitored by people you'll never meet. Your wedding day, your son's first steps, your daughter blowing out candles on a cake shaped like a castle. Each image is real. Each memory happened. But they all exist inside a frame you didn't choose, built by choices you made one small compromise at a time. The woman in those photos looks happy. Maybe she was. Maybe happiness is just another word for not knowing yet. Your mother calls less now. Not because she doesn't care, because she's run out of questions that don't require answers you can't give. Your friends from before the money disappeared into lives you can't access anymore. Normal lives. Messy lives. Lives where the worst thing that happens is a bad breakup, or a job loss, or a fight that gets resolved with an apology instead of a burial. You traded all of that for security, for wealth, for a man who promised you a house with a garden. He kept that promise. What he didn't mention was that the garden would have walls so high you'd forget what the world outside them looks like. The darkest part isn't the violence you've witnessed, or the lies you've told, or even the fear that lives in your chest like a second heartbeat. The darkest part is how normal it's become. How you can watch the news report another killing and feel nothing except relief that it wasn't your husband this time. How you can tuck your children into bed and kiss them goodnight, knowing that the money paying for their sheets came from someone else's destroyed life. How you can look in the mirror and recognize your face but not the person behind it. You became his wife at 19. You'll leave this marriage in one of 2 ways: widowhood or witness protection. There is no divorce in this world. There's no retirement plan. There's just the waiting, the pretending, and the slow recognition that you're not protecting your children from the truth. You're teaching them how to live inside a lie that's too big to escape and too comfortable to leave. The boy from the gas station doesn't exist anymore. Maybe he never did. Maybe what you fell in love with was always just the costume he wore before you signed the paperwork that made you complicit in everything that came after. Your daughter will grow up drawing empty houses. Your son will grow up learning that love means silence. And you'll grow old in a beautiful prison, telling yourself it was worth it because you had no choice. But you did have a choice. You made it at 19 at a gas station outside Guadalajara, when a man with kind eyes and expensive hands asked for your number. Everything after that was just the bill coming due.